if Jesus had these 40 miracles of healing, why can't I pray now to Jesus or God and get a healing?
He told me what he writes about, and I was like, you have got to be on the show. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself and talk about the book. But this book is really, really interesting, and I'm quite sure it's something that you're going to want to read yourself. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Edward Feroli. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Yay! Okay, how are you tonight? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and thank you for deciding to be a part of the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
I enjoyed talking to you at that meeting.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And you were talking, we talked about a few different subjects, but you're really, really interesting. And so when you told me about your book, I just felt that it was something that everybody needed to hear about. And I think I'm frozen again, so hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Perfect. Okay, so can you tell us a bit? Well, first of all, before you tell us about the book, can you introduce yourself? Because you are kind of a staple in Maryland. You've been in the medical field for what, over 40 years?
44 years I was in practice, yes. I did volunteer work in Central America, and I enjoyed my practice very much. And I also had an interest in miracles. And so I got, well, I'll tell you what happened. My book is called Evidence-Based Miracles. And you can see here, it's got a Caravaggio painting on the front, which is the Doubting Thomas. So the book is for people who are doubting Thomases. I'm aiming it at Christian agnostics, actually. I'm trying to persuade them that there's a reason to believe. And this kind of goes back to my years ago. I was in a sports club, and I'd swim 30 minutes to come, and I'd join a group in a jacuzzi, and we'd talk about a lot of things. And I was a Catholic representative. There was a very devout Baptist, there was a very devout atheist, and some agnostics. And we got talking about, so why do you believe? Why shouldn't? And I said, well, I cannot not believe because I believe in miracles. And they said, what? You believe in miracles? I gave everybody a copy of a book called The Voyage to Lourdes by Alexis Carrel. And Alexis Carrel was a prominent researcher and doctor in France. And in 1902, he went as a nice guy. He was an atheist. And he just went as a nice guy, accompanying a woman to Lourdes who was dying of tuberculosis. She had disseminated tuberculosis, and he followed her over there. And he thought, why doesn't they leave her at home, let her die at home? Well, they get to Lourdes. She goes into the bath. She sits up and says, give me something to eat, and totally recovers. Well, this blew his mind. This is against everything he knew in science. So the next year he goes to Lourdes again, and there's a child who's born blind who gains sight. Well, Alexis Carrel just couldn't understand this because everything he knew was this was an opposition to it. So he told the physicians in Paris, and they said, don't believe it. And he was kind of shunned. So he left France, went to the US. He became a Rockefeller scientist, won a Nobel Prize for his work. Eventually, he had to believe. So he became a believer because of the evidence right there. And that's what I'm going by. So, I think go ahead.
It's your. I was just going to say it's your belief that miracles still happen today. I think a lot of people think that miracles were only in the Bible, and after the Bible days, there were no more miracles.
Yeah. Well, now I've been in practice 44 years. I've seen some amazing recoveries. No miracles, but miracles. Let's go back to Jesus. He had 40 miracles of healing. And so my premise is, if Jesus had these 40 miracles of healing, why can't I pray now to Jesus or God and get a healing? And it does happen, really. So I want to go off to, well, I start with Lourdes, because Lourdes is the one place where a lot of healings occur, allegedly, and they have a medical bureau to study these. Now, Lourdes goes back to 1858, when this young 14-year-old girl said she saw the Blessed Virgin, but nobody believed her. And she kept saying this. And at one point, she was told to dig a hole in the sand. She did. And a spring flew up and water came out. And later on, people started putting their children in the water who were ill, and it healed them. So Lourdes got the water, got a reputation for healing people. So eventually they set up a medical bureau at Lourdes to evaluate these healings. And they scrupulously examine these alleged healings. Now, over time, they've only had 70, but only most people who go to Lourdes, there are 5 million go every year, many are healed. They don't report to the bureau, they're just healed and go home.
Right.
So these people, if you want to look this up, Lourdes miracles online, you can see all the different miracles. These are people who are dying of serious disease, and the cure is called instantaneous healing, instantaneous, long-lasting. The people pray to God, pray to the Virgin, or pray to Jesus, and it follows that prayer. And I'll give you an example of somebody. Like this guy is a fellow named John Trainer. He came from Ireland, and he was in the First World War, and he suffered injury to his arm. He had an arm that just hang loose. He had seizures. He had paraplegia, and he decided he wanted to go to Lourdes. People said, "No, you can't go to Lourdes. The guy in your condition." Well, he saved money. He ransomed something, and he got money to go to Lourdes. He went with the tour group. He get to Lourdes, and he went into the baths several times, and he wasn't healed right away, but he kept going. And then eventually he started feeling better, and he realized he could move his legs, and his caretakers didn't believe him. So he was up in his room at night, heard the bells chiming. He runs out of his room. They're chasing after him. He goes down and thanks God for the healing. So he was totally healed, totally healed. And I can cite another one. One of my favorite books on Lourdes is written by Ruth Cranston, who is she's a Presbyterian, I believe. Her father was a missionary. So it's kind of strange that she would write about Lourdes, but she did. And in one of her stories, there's a child who has meningococcal encephalitis and is in a vegetative state. The mother brings him to the Lourdes bath, and he starts talking, and he's totally healed. And actually, Ruth Cranston, who wrote this book, went to Lourdes and checked this out. And here the kid's a teenager, perfectly normal. So there are many cases. Now, I've been to Lourdes, interesting place to go, because I was a doctor, and they let me attend a meeting to discuss healings. Now, to be a healing, it can't have any medical treatment at all. So we had some amazing cures discussed, but they had received medicine which had failed, but that doesn't qualify. They have to be pure healed without medicine. And there are many. I personally know a doctor, who had cancer, rectal cancer, on biopsy. He went to Lourdes, went to bath, had the surgery, no cancer was found. So there are amazing stories like this of healings, but I don't want to give the idea it only happens with Catholics, because there's a doctor, there's a theologian named Lee Strobel. Lee Strobel is a Baptist. He's a educator. He's written 4 books on religion, bestsellers. And he's written a book which I enjoy. And this is, in case anybody's interested in his book, I would recommend it. It's called The Case for Lords by Lee Strobel. No, the case for Miracles by Lee Strobel. And Lee Strobel, in his book, cites many miracles, people cured of deafness, but one particularly outstanding was a person with severe progressive multiple sclerosis. The person was on life support, had contractions, couldn't use her extremities. She was blind, and the church prayed for her, and she was cured. The church, so it's a different way. This is church involved, community involved. So if that is a very good book on that subject.